Hey there, welcome to episode 160 of Mike's Collection. I'm Mike, and the part of my collection that I'm going to be talking about today are my brand new Action Force figures from Valaverse. So as I sit down to record this, it is January 3rd. I just got these figures on December 29th, so they're quite new to me. I did an unboxing video when they first arrived, so if you're curious to see how these figures came packaged and what their boxes look like and all that stuff, I don't really get into any of that in this video, but you can check out my unboxing videos from last week that showed you how that all worked out. So this was a Kickstarter that I backed way back in 2019. It took a full 2 years and a month or so to actually get the figures in my hand. So there was a lot of anticipation for this toy line. And clearly I wasn't the only one that was excited about them, because my unboxing video has gotten quite a lot of views in the few days since I've posted it. I'm seeing lots of other reviews of this toy line posted, and they all seem to be getting a lot of views. There's a lot of interest. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this video as I break down each of the Wave 1 figures. So this is all of the unique figures as well as the troop builders that were released. So I'm going to cover all of them. So I hope you enjoy it, but I'll cut to the chase and say these figures are awesome, and I recommend that you seek these things out as soon as you can. So let's start taking a closer look at them. So before we take a look at the unique individual characters, we're going to first take a look at the troopers. So the troopers come in these smaller boxes. There's no window box to display the figure. On the front, it shows you the character. Now, it might look like there's two figures in this box. There are not. The reason it shows you the two characters is because the figure comes with optional heads. So one is this masked head with a Caucasian guy in there, and then the other mask, you can see you've got an African American guy in there. So it's really cool that they give you the option. But otherwise, it's just one body from the neck down. So the box is pretty small and simple. You still get a file card on the back that describes the Republic Guard here, or the Riot Trooper, whatever you want to call this guy. So the box is pretty simple. Now, you can see here, I have him displayed with some gear. So when I got these figures like a couple of days ago, I spent a whole afternoon unboxing them and then arming them with all the weapons. So all 14 of my figures are pretty geared up right now. And even after arming them to the teeth, I still have this tray of accessories left over. So that's because I bought the backpack set, so I've got a lot of extra backpacks here. I've got some extra belts and satchels, extra heads floating around here. I've got a ton of extra hands, because every figure comes with additional hands here. So even the trooper here. You don't get a whole lot of stuff in the package with the standard trooper. You get the basic guy, you get the two heads, you get the display base that says Action Force, and then you get a bunch of extra hands. But you don't get any weapons or any backpacks or any armor or any of that stuff. So when it comes to these troopers, I had to arm them up with some of the extra pieces I had laying around. So as far as the head goes, I mentioned there's the two masked heads. So I've got, here is the masked Caucasian head. So this here is just in my bin of spare parts right now because I'm not using it. I have decided to display this guy, at least for now, with one of my Steel Brigade Trooper heads. And we're going to take a look at the Steel Brigade Trooper in a little bit more detail later. And then as far as the gear, so when you buy these figures individually, Valaverse also sells on their website some gear packs, which have vests and guns and helmets and all kinds of other accessories to put on your figure. So I bought 3 of these troopers, and I only bought 2 accessory sets. The reason being, I thought I would have enough junk left over, which I clearly do, to arm, my third figure even without the specific accessory set. However, I will say, when I armed all my figures, this was the only one I didn't have a vest for, because I didn't have that extra accessory set, and he does feel a little naked to me compared to the other figures. Like, he's a pretty solid figure just on his own. He doesn't need the vest, and it actually allows him to be a little bit more articulated. It's a little easier to pose this guy than maybe some of the others because he's not hindered by the vest. But yeah, when you see him compared to the other guys, he looks like he kind of needs one. So yeah, if you're buying these trooper types, I would probably recommend that you pick up one of the accessory sets. So what I've got him armed with is I've got him armed with a couple of guns that I wasn't using from some of my other characters. I've actually got him with the same gun twice. I think these guns came with the Steel Brigade Trooper. Now I originally had him with black gear, because I thought black and blue would look good. So you can see here I have the black pack and the black satchel. These came from the backpack set, which had 9 backpacks in it. But once I had them on there, I just thought he looked a little too dark. He was, he needed a little bit of color. So I actually changed out his satchel for the tan satchel, gave him the tan bag, and I also changed out his all black weapons with the tan weapons. So that was just to add a little color. Plus, since I've turned this trooper into a Steel Brigade trooper, the figure that this guy is based on, which is an old G.I. Joe figure, his core colors were blue and tan. So I kind of thought by adding the tan accessories, it kind of makes him look a little bit more reminiscent of the classic Steel Brigade figure. But anyway, the reason why I'm starting with this figure, even though it's probably my least exciting one to look at, is because since he doesn't have a vest, this is the easiest one for me to show you how he moves. Because I'm not going to bother doing that with every figure, because they all work the same. But so first off, he comes with this display base, and you see there's 4 pegs on it. So there's one here, there's another one right there. So you have some options with how to display him. But he pegs on there relatively easy, and he holds pretty firm. You can see I'm holding him up, and it's not falling off. And yeah, so as far as articulation goes, I did follow the instructions that came with the figures, and I had to heat them up a little bit. I found that some of the figures, their legs were really stiff, and some of their feet, like their ankle joints, are really stiff. So yeah, make sure you heat up everything so you don't risk breaking anything. But you can see the detail on these figures, so very nice sculpt detail there on the boots. Lots of wrinkles on the clothes. He's got some sculpted detail here, like these. Looks like maybe zippers or pockets there that aren't all painted. Like there's a pocket there. There's no additional paint detail. But yeah, these figures have a lot of nice painted detail. I don't feel they skimped on these at all. So for articulation, so the ankles, they do move forward and backward, so you can kind of get him, that'll help him in crouching positions and stuff. It also does rock a little bit from side to side. So again, if you want to angle him, spread his legs out, you can still flatten his foot some. There's a swivel at the boot cut, so you can swivel his whole boot around. Double articulated knees, which is good because that way you can get a really good pose here. So they're still a little tight. Could probably use a little bit more heat. Let me try the other leg. It really sucked to break this guy on camera, but you get the idea. So when you hit the double joint rather than just go kind of to a 90-degree ankle, he can get his foot right back there. So yeah, lots of good movement there. The joints on the legs, so you can do the splits really well and get down really low. Let me straighten him out here again. You can also see how tight the joints are, which, it requires a little heat at first, but it's nice to have those tight joints because it means he'll retain his poses. So if you stick him on the display base and you want to kick him, have him kick him like that, he'll stay that way. It's not like his leg just falls and dangles back into place. So, he spins at the waist here. It's getting a little tight, but so right here at the belt cut. Then he's got this mid-torso joint, which again is another swivel, so we can spin around there. And that's the joint that kind of gets hindered once you put a vest on him. Now for his arms, good range of movement on the arms. Sorry if I'm losing out of focus here. But so they have these butterfly joints too, which weren't originally going to be on the figures, but they added that later. That allows his arms to come in really far on over his chest. And that was done so he can hold weapons with 2 hands if he needs to. So that's really cool. Maybe I'll try that in a minute. So yeah, so good movement in the arms. Of course, he's got the double jointed elbows, just like he had the knees. So you can get his arm folded, really good angle there. The wrists. Let me get this gun out of his hand for a second. So the wrist here, you can see that swivels, of course, and there's also a joint. I don't know if you've seen it there. So besides the turning, it can actually be posed as well. So you can turn it down, you can turn it up. So you get some angles there with the hand. And then the head, that's on a ball joint. So that can do a full 360 if you really wanted to. And I think that about covers the articulation. Now it does have, I've seen them described as having drop down hips. I haven't really messed around with that too much, but I think if you see in the crotch there, his leg, they kind of drop down like so, and then can kind of go back up. That allows for a little bit more posability. Actually, I guess I should mention there's another joint right there at the top of the leg. There's another swivel. So yeah, very fun to pose, very posable, lots of options. Let me just see if I can get this guy in a good double-handed gun pose for a second. All right, so here's an example of him holding the gun with two hands. Now, I'm sure there are those that could pose him better. I'm not really one to pose my guys all that dramatically. I don't really do dioramas or anything like that. These figures are just going to eventually end up displayed on my shelf in pretty neutral standing positions. That's how I like to display all my action figures. But yeah, if you like to do toy photography and stuff, I've already seen a lot of cool poses that these guys have been put in. And honestly, if you wanted to have him hold the gun with two hands, so you see I've got him with two trigger hands. Now again, he's got tons of hands here. So here's a version of a black hand. It's just it's an open hand, but he doesn't have the trigger finger posed separately. So that's probably the hand that you would want here to hold the front of the gun. You wouldn't necessarily want his trigger finger coming out there. But that's why it's so great about having all these options for hands. You've got closed fists, you've got open hands, you've got trigger hands, lots of options. So yeah, he looks really good like that. And yeah, I think, so if we've covered the articulation, I think we can probably move on to the next figure. So this here is the Special Ops Trooper. So it is the exact same figure, except this one is in all black, except, rather than the kind of navy blue and black of the other figure. Now you see this guy doesn't look nearly as basic. He looks a little bit more bulked up, but inside the box it was the exact same. The box is the same except the colors are different, but the artwork is the same for this trooper. Again, the only accessories in the box were the display base, the two alternate heads, so you can have the two different ethnicities, and all the different hands. On the back, again, there's another little file card, very G.I. Joe-esque. You get the action points, which is another kind of nod to G.I. Joe's flag points. But otherwise, the box here is pretty basic stuff. But the reason this figure looks a little bit more deluxe is because I've got the Riot gear set. So when you add one of these accessory sets to one of the basic figures, he basically turns into one of the deluxe figures. So where these guys cost about $20 on their own, the deluxe figures cost about $30. These packs here cost about $10. So it makes sense that when you put a basic figure and a basic accessory set together, then you get a full figure. So to get a better idea of what's in here, you see here there is a vest, a helmet with these removable little side bits, whatever that's all about. You get the night vision goggles, backpack, guns, holsters that go onto his legs. He's got a belt, got a gun, he's got a knife with a sheath. So you get lots of cool stuff in there. So compared to my other trooper here, if I bring him back out for a sec, you see, so his legs, there's nothing fancy on his legs. This guy here, I have these added bits. So this one here slides on, it looks like there's a canteen. So that was attached to this leg accessory. This one here has a holster attached, and I've got the pistol, which is a separate piece. So I've got that holster there on his leg. So that fits in there nice. And you can see these things, they fit on there pretty good. They're not moving around. Like I can hold him up by those, and they're not sliding around. Now, how I got those on there, I haven't tried to take apart these figures at all yet. I know that you can, but I haven't seen any information from Valaverse specifically how to take them apart. I kind of thought maybe these basic figures would come with a little piece of paper that told you how to separate the figure at the torso or whatever to get these accessory sets on, but they didn't say. So with these pieces here, maybe the legs detach here and it's easy to put them on. What I had to do is I just slid them on over his feet. I had to straighten his feet out and I slid these things up. It took a little bit to wrestle them over all the wrinkles and stuff, but that's good because then it helps them lock into place. Like you can see, this one here is kind of resting on the pocket, which really helps it hold in place there. All these other little sculpted bits kind of catch the straps on there, and that holds them in place. With the vest, so the vest, this is a problem that a lot of people have been reporting on these figures. It is very hard to get this vest sealed up, and you can see I failed. So the vest has two little pegs there, and they plug into those holes. But yeah, you got to fight with them like a son of a bitch to get those in there. I've seen people talk about how you got to heat them up. I've seen people say how you have to separate the figure at the torso. That way you get enough torque to kind of push those two things together. Anyways, I tried heat. That didn't work. But like I said, I haven't tried to take the figure apart yet. So right now the vest is just kind of hanging open, which kind of sucks. But other than that, you see I've got the sheath on the back with the knife that goes in there. And that holds nice and firm too. So that's cool. The vest looks really nice. It's got a couple of pouches here for ammo clips, and those are removable, so you don't have to put those in there. There you go. So they'll just tuck in there nice like that. So very cool. So the only thing I don't have on him from that accessory set is the belt. Because this thing I could not slide over his arms. I couldn't slide it up over both of his legs. This thing, obviously, you have to separate the figure at the waist in order to get the belt on. But this belt doesn't really seem to bring a whole lot to the table. He doesn't appear to be missing anything without it. So, yeah, maybe after I see a video or two of how people separate them easily without breaking it, I'll throw the belt on him. But for now, he's doing just fine without it. So, yeah, he's got the tactical vest. You see I've given him the backpack. So, I don't know if that was the one from this set or not. I don't think so. If you look at the art, that appears to be solid black. That's maybe this one here that I've got in my extra parts bin. But I thought it gave him a little bit of color. So I've got him on with the gray straps here. So that was from the backpack set. That was separate. I've also got the helmet on. So that comes off. So you can see I've got him displayed with the African American head. But he has the option to have the Caucasian head as well. And then the helmet. So I've got the side pieces on, which are removable. They can be a little bit tough to wrestle with to get them on there. And then he's got the night vision goggles. Now, I was kind of hoping the night vision goggles would flip. Like, you could keep them there and flip them down over his eyes. They don't do that. You have to detach them and then plug them back in, like so. But once you do that, then you could have the figure displayed with his night vision down. So they work pretty well. So overall, these figures feel really solid. They're fun to accessorize. They're fun to pose. You see I've got him displayed. This is not the gun that came with the accessory set. This is just another gun that I had laying around. I can't remember who it originally came with. But yeah, very cool. Like these guys a lot. This guy is just as posable as this guy here. But like I said, he's the easiest one to mess around with just because I don't have him all geared up. But yeah, looks really, really cool. Like this guy a lot. So the third and final trooper type I have here is the Urban Combat Republic Guard. So again, the exact same base figure as we saw in the other two. He's still got the two different heads. He's got all the extra hands. He's got the display base in this box, except instead of black or blue, he's got this gray camo pattern. And then I have him souped up with some of the parts from the Urban Gear set. So him being the Urban Trooper, this being the Urban set, you can tell it was kind of intended for him. So in there we get this vest, we get a gun, we get a backpack, we get some of those leg thingies, the pistol, the holster. He's got the helmet as well with the night vision goggles, the knife, the ammo packs there. Now you can see I've decided to display him without the helmet, but I did give him the things on the legs there, so he's got the holster. Now he doesn't have his pistol because I gave that to somebody else, but he looks really nice with that vest there. Actually, there's the pistol, so he's got the pistol himself. He's got this green gun. I really like how the green looks against the gray camo, so I think that was a pretty solid choice. You can see I've got him displayed with his African American head here as well, which to me is just a little bit of a nod to So this figure, I think, pretty clearly reminds fans of Firefly, the G.I. Joe Saboteur. And when this figure was first shown in the Kickstarter 2 years ago, that was before we had a 6-inch G.I. Joe line. And people were excited about this line, and I think a lot of people were hoping that the figures would be kind of nods to G.I. Joe characters, and they could actually display them in their collections as G.I. Joe characters. So I'm sure a lot of people saw this and thought, this is going to be a Firefly in my collection. Now, this is a good chance to do a comparison, I guess, because we now, in the last 2 years since these figures were first announced, Hasbro gave us some 6-inch G.I. Joe figures. So here is their version of Firefly. So this is the Cobra Saboteur in his gray camo. And I think this is a pretty great figure on its own. Scale-wise, here, let me get this stuff out of the way. And I'll have to probably take him off the base so we can really see a fair comparison here. I have to adjust him slightly. All right. So there you go. So they're the two characters together. So they work really well together. Like as far as scale goes, and like they look like they could go to the same toy line. Like one is not drastically different from the other one. So yeah, if you wanted to add these guys together, you could have him be one of, Firefly's apprentice or something, or vice versa. If you like this figure better and you want it to be your Firefly. But yeah, I think they look really great displayed together. And yeah, just scale-wise, size-wise, I think they, looks really good. Which is also good because you can swap accessories too. I haven't tried doing that. I'm sure they could hold each other's guns no problem, but if you wanted to take Firefly's, this is kind of this big crazy vest that he's got to protect him from explosives, I guess. If you wanted to put that on one of these guys, I'm sure it would probably work. But yeah, I'm not going to mess around with all that right now. All right, so let's take a little bit closer look at this guy. So as I was saying, with the African-American head there, I thought that was kind of cool because in the IDW G.I. Joe comic books, they changed Firefly to an African-American character. So yeah, this is kind of like my nod to IDW's Firefly. But yeah, the set looks really great. I like this vest on him. And if I bring up those other trooper characters now for a second. Yeah, so here are all three trooper types together. And so like I said, these are all the exact same figure as far as the sculpting goes. They just have some different paint jobs. But you can see how different you can make them look once you change up their accessories. So throw on a new head on there, add a helmet to a guy, give him a couple of different vests, some different weapons, throw a satchel on them, and they look like completely different figures. They don't look like you just bought the same figure in a couple of different colors. So yeah, all the options with the accessories I think is really great. It makes these troopers really interesting. But now let's move on to the actual unique characters in the line. So this here is Sergeant Slaughter. So when the Kickstarter was first announced, Sergeant Slaughter was not a part of it. But once the Kickstarter was successfully funded, Valaverse added this character onto it, which was a nice surprise. Because I think it's fair to say most people collecting these Action Force figures started out as fans of G.I. Joe. And as you probably know, Sergeant Slaughter was a member of the G.I. Joe team in the 80s. So even though this is a real-life guy, he was a wrestler in the WWF back when I was a kid. They integrated him into the G.I. Joe brand. He was put into the G.I. Joe animated series, and he had multiple figures. So Valaverse signed him up for a contract, so he's now a member of Action Force, which is really cool. So I think this figure is awesome. Now, I've seen some people complain that his face is maybe a little too cartoony, or maybe he looks too young, or maybe he looks too old. But I think it's great. I love that kind of smushed up face of his. That's what he looks like. I've never met the man in person, but I've seen lots of images of him online of what he looks like nowadays, and kind of what he's always looked like. But he has that really pronounced chin, and his face kind of smushes up tight like that. And I think this looks pretty spot on. As far as the bulk or the body of the figure, really nice detail. I love the texture there on his undershirt. I really like the camo design on the pants. But you can see here that he's not breaking a whole lot of new ground as far as sculpting goes. So this jacket here is new and unique to him. But otherwise, like these legs you probably recognize from the troopers that I just showed you. I think those are pretty much the exact same, probably from the waist down as the troopers. And then the gear sets. So he's got a different gun here. So he's got a... I'll get that out of there. So, you know, he's got a different gun. But... And the holster is a little different. But, you know, how it attaches and everything, that still works the same. He's got, instead of a canteen on his leg, he's got this really big knife with an eagle handle on the sheath. This is a really cool accessory. All right, fit that back in there. Yeah, and so some people I know have wanted him to have bare arms because that's how he was always portrayed in the G.I. Joe cartoon and the G.I. Joe figures. I kind of like this look with the jacket, but they've already announced that there's going to be a Sergeant Slaughter version 2 in the second wave of Action Force figures. Another thing I've seen people complain about is they don't like that if you wanted to take this jacket off and maybe use another character, because there is another character in the line that we're going to look at next with bare arms. So if you put that other guy's arms into this body, you still don't quite, it doesn't work because, if you've seen here, they painted this area green. So not his arms, but where, if I got his jacket off, you can maybe see there's green painted where there should be flesh color there. But I'm fine with that because I don't intend to take my figures apart. I'm going to keep them displayed as is. And it would look kind of weird if they painted that flesh tone and then you turn him to the side, you'd see all this flesh tone in his jacket, which wouldn't make sense because these sleeves are supposed to be attached to this jacket. It's supposed to be all one piece. So, you know, I guess it's a bit of a matter of personal preference, but I'm glad that they painted that green in there so it all ties together a little better. And for those of you that wanted Sergeant Slaughter with his, just his tank top on, you'll have your chance to do that with the version 2. So articulation's all the same as everybody else. You see here he's got a slot in the back of his jacket, which lines up with the peg hole on his back. So if you wanted to give him a backpack, you can do that quite easily. They've got long pegs on there. You put that in there, and there you go. Because he's got a good... The display base is really nicely kind of weighted, that you can put a big backpack on him like that, and that doesn't send him toppling over. I have plenty of G.I. Joes where if you put a backpack on them, even with the display span, he would just go falling backwards. But you don't feel that at all here. He still feels nice and firm. Now, I wasn't actually even intending to talk about this video, but since I've got this backpack here, I'll mention this, which is pretty cool. So the backpacks, there's a panel there, and you can store stuff in there. So if you want to store some of your extra hands or maybe an extra gun or something in there, you can do that, which is really cool because I don't think any G.I. Joes of the past had functional backpacks. They just pegged into them like this, and it was basically just a non-functional accessory. So that's a really neat add-on, and you can see that holds really solid too. It's not like it's falling out. You really kind of got to give it a little tug to get it out of there. So yeah, really great stuff. All the backpacks do that. The satchels do not, but all the packs, whether it's this size or the smaller size pack, it does it as well. So there we go. There we go. All right. So very cool stuff. That's just his little sidebar, I guess. So let's take a look at the figure without his hat on. So that comes off pretty easily. And so do the glasses. And there is his face. His very recognizable face. And yeah, so I really like the way the paintwork turned out on him. And I think he looks really good. Now the hat goes on quite easily. And, it doesn't fall off easy. So that's good. The glasses, though, they're a little bit of a bitch to get on properly. They do rest like so. It helps, I think, with the hat on. But, yeah, they're a little tougher to get lined up quite right. But there you go. And, yeah, you see, I've got him displayed with this gun. I don't think he came with that gun. I think that might have been from one of the accessory sets. So yeah, just so you know, as I bring these guys out here, I might forget to mention it, but a lot of their guns in their hands might not be the ones they came with. They might be from one of the accessory sets. Anyway, another thing that I should talk about, because I've seen other people address it, is this guy tall enough? Because they feel he's too short. Now, I don't know how tall this guy is in real life, but if you want to use him with your new classified G.I. Joe figures, that's where he stands. So he seems fine to me. Sure, he was portrayed as a pretty big guy in the cartoons, but I've seen people describe him as short. And yeah, I think he's probably shorter than some of the taller G.I. Joe classified guys, like Gung Ho and Roadblock. And maybe might be some of you guys out there that want to see that. So why don't I grab Gung Ho and Roadblock. So here he is next to the tallest members of the G.I. Joe classified line so far. And so I guess you can make up your mind whether you feel he's tall enough or short enough. I never really felt like Sergeant Slaughter was intended to be huge. I did feel like Gung Ho and Roadblock were supposed to be big guys. So I think this makes sense to me that they would be taller than him. But the fact that Slaughter is basically the same scale as Duke and Snake Eyes and the other Joes, I think he fits in there just fine. So here's our next unique character. This is Kerak. So I guess you would describe him as the leader of the bad guys. But yeah, this is another really solid figure. And you'll see he's got a lot of the same parts. So the legs and the boots, I think, again, those are pretty much the same we've seen on pretty much all the figures thus far. The accessories on the legs, so he's got the same things there. You see his holster is a little bit different. And he, again, has a unique gun to go in there. So that's cool. Those little differences go a long way to differentiate these guys. Now he does have the same, I think, sheath as Slaughter. And he's got a big knife as well, but the handle doesn't have like I think it was the eagle head on Slaughter, so that is a little different there. And you see here, Kerak has a vest, but it is it's different than Slaughter's. Let me just grab Slaughter again for a sec. Yeah, so you see the vest. You know, that is a different piece. This guy's got a fur collar on his, and he's got fur trim along the bottom. Slaughter is much more basic military-style jacket. Again, there's the eagle head on the knife, even though I think the sheaths are about the same otherwise. So yeah, lots of similarities, but enough differences to keep things interesting. He's got this little like hatchet accessory. This is the guy with the bare arms I was talking about, and you see he's got the same tank top with the same sculpted ridges. So his torso is the same as Slaughter. So if you wanted Slaughter with the tank top, I guess what you could do is you could pop this whole thing off at the torso, put it on Slaughter's pants, and put Slaughter's head on there, and there you go. You've got him in a gray tank top, because you can see he's got the flesh color around his arms, because that makes sense, because this jacket doesn't have sleeves. But if you want Slaughter with the black tank top, that wouldn't really work out because of the green that's going to be painted around his arms. On the back here, he's got this, I don't know what you call that, a holster, I guess, I don't know, for his shotgun. So you got a big shotgun that tucks in there. So that's cool. Again, there's that belt that I couldn't get onto my troopers, but you see how that attaches there. And then, so the main thing to talk about with Carrack is his head and his helmet sculpt. So I really like this helmet. It's like some ancient gladiator helmet with some war paint painted on there. Very cool. And tucks around his ears like that, but it comes off quite easily and stays on nice and firm too. See, like I'm holding him by the helmet, and that's not coming off, but it comes off relatively easily. And there is the head sculpt, looking very intense. Now, I'll be honest, the head sculpts are growing on me. Not even the sculpts, the paint jobs. I like the kind of cartoony look of G.I. Joes. So if I bring Duke back out here for a second. So his face doesn't necessarily look realistic, which is fine. I like the way this head looks. And when we first saw the pictures of the Action Force figures on the Kickstarter, this is more or less how they were painted. They didn't have that digital face printing. We usually see digital face printing on a lot of figures that are based on real life actors. So you see that on Star Wars Black Series a lot. And that's what he went with the figures, rather than the more cartoony, I'll say, or less realistic paint job. And I kind of would have preferred the less realistic. Like this guy, I feel like maybe the wrinkles are a little too accentuated by the paint. But it is growing on me. Yeah, I think Kerak looks pretty cool. Plus, I will be displaying him with his helmet on anyway, which hides some of that stuff on his face there. So, yeah, I think he looks really cool both ways, but I do prefer the helmet. But there you go. There's Kerak. So the next figure we're going to look at is the Bone Collector. And this guy is, again, part of his own faction. I believe it's called the Brotherhood of Bones. And this guy is pretty cool. I really like the look of this guy. So you see here, he's got the same vest that we saw on one of the troopers. Let me just grab him again. So this is the vest that came in the accessory set, but it is painted differently for him. So this one here has got the brown with the gold bullets and everything. So again, I'm glad that they painted it. Makes it look pretty different. You don't necessarily think those guys are wearing the same thing. But otherwise, a lot of parts reuse here. Again, from the waist down, I would guess he's pretty much the same boots, the same pants with the wrinkles. You see for the attachments here, so he's got the same straps that go around his legs, but this guy here, instead of a knife or instead of a canteen, he's got some more little spots where he can store his ammo. And then he has a holster over here. Again, with I don't know if this gun is unique. This might be the same one Kerak had, I'm not sure, but again, it fits in there, the holster, nice and snug. Now you see here on the back of his armor, you can attach this sheath for the knife, which slides in there nicely, but I've got him holding it. And, it's got that nice, it could have just very easily been an all black piece, but it does have that silver edge on the blade, which is nice. And then the gun here, again, I think that's the one that came packaged with him. Mostly black, but then it's got the green, it's got some silver magazines. So very cool. I really like the look of this guy. I like that camo on his pants. I love this vest. Just really nice color combination. This guy here, even though I only had this figure for about 2 days, when I sat down to do my best of the year list, this is one of the figures that knocked another toy off of my list because I just immediately fell in love with this guy. It's just a really high quality figure. All of these Action Force figures really are. But something about this guy really stands out to me. I really like him a lot. Part of it is that mask. Like, how cool is that? Looks like he's got the skull of, I don't know, like a saber tooth or a monster or something. I don't know what kind of skull it is. But yeah, it looks very cool. And you see he's got that just strapped onto his face. That mask comes off. And then we've got this dude underneath. Now again, I would say that I liked the paint that we saw on the kind of the prototype images better than what we're seeing here with the digital face printing. But again, this guy's gonna have a mask on, so yeah, it doesn't bother me so much. But yeah, it's a little unclear what's going on around his mouth there. It almost looks like, is it supposed to be stubble or is it just some stray paintwork? It's a little hard to tell. His eyes look a little sad. But anyway, it's not a bad head sculpt and it's not a bad paint job. And like I said, these things are growing on me. I've only owned them for about a week. And already I like them even more than I did when I first got them. But yeah, very cool. But again, I like this guy with his mask on. Now, before we move on to the next figure, so when this Kickstarter first launched, there was different tiers that you could support. So it was like, one figure is $30, 2 figures is $60. And I wanted to support this Kickstarter and make sure it got funded. So even though there was initially only 3 figures offered, I went ahead and did the 10 figure bundle. By ordering 10 figures, I got a free weapons pack thrown in and a free backpack set thrown in. And I also got a free bonus Steel Brigade Commander head. So since I had to choose 10 figures out of the 3, I ended up with some duplicates. Now, as the line continued to exceed expectations, Valaverse was able to add additional figures to the Kickstarter that weren't initially offered. And so I was able to swap out some of those initial 10 that I was going to get. But with Bone Collector here, he's a unique character. So, it goes, it's reasonable that you would maybe only want one of this figure in your collection, in the same way you might only want one Snake Eyes or one Cobra Commander because he's one guy. But I bought 2 of them. And so here is my second Bone Collector. And it's amazing what just a little bit of change can do. So with this guy, what I did is I gave him the extra masked head that came with my trooper that was in all black. So the reason why with that guy, I'm going to grab him again. So with this figure, so he's all black, and he came with the 2 heads. So you had either the African American or the Caucasian head. So I displayed this one with the like the African American head, because there's no other skin showing on this figure except for the eyes. So I thought that worked very well for this figure. However, with this figure, he's got an exposed neck, and he's clearly a white guy. So I took the masked head with the white eyes, and I put it on here. And now he, even though he's got the same outfit as Bone Collector, I can imagine him just being one of Bone Collector's, we'll call them Bone Troopers or Bone Soldiers or something. So I could imagine getting, a few more Bone Collectors and just doing this, swapping out the heads. And I think it looks pretty cool. And just by giving him some different weapons, so I've opted to give this guy a couple of smaller pistols. Also, that was just kind of my way of making him look a little bit, lower tier than, say, the actual Bone Collector who's got this big giant machine gun. So, yeah, that's what I've done with him. So his knife is sheathed here on the back. And, he's got his ammo clips, he's got his pistol. But, so that's what I've done with my extra Bone Collector. So next up, we've got Condor. So this is another member of Action Force. So, again, a lot of the same parts. Although there is some new pieces here, like on his pants, you'll notice his boots are different than what we've seen on a lot of the other figures. So, you know what? I'm actually just noticing as I look at some of the other figures here, he's not the first one to have these, like even this trooper type. So he's got those buckles on his belt. But the other guys, like say Slaughter has the lace-up boots. So yeah, I guess these aren't as the same. And even on Slaughter, you'll notice he doesn't have any knee pads, but Condor does. So there probably are more unique sculpted parts here than I really initially gave it credit for. I didn't really scrutinize these all that closely. But as far as the attachments on the legs, so you see he's got the canteen, and he's got a pistol holstered here. On his vest, he's got the knife sheathed there. So this vest here, so while the other trooper, this guy, had the same vest as Bone Collector, which differs from Condor, this guy, with his accessory set, that came with the same vest as Condor. So they're the same sculpt, but this one here is just black and gray. This one here, it's got some added details. It's got some kind of logos painted on there. It's got some green painted on there. Some blue on the back. So it makes it a little bit more interesting. And, at first glance, you don't even necessarily realize that it's the same piece. So again, he's got more kind of decals that are painted on his sleeve. He's got his sleeves rolled up, which could hinder him a little bit in that, like if you wanted to display an African American head on him, again, you've got the neck and the forearm, so that causes a bit of a problem. But, another really nice figure. If I have one issue with Condor, it's the same thing I mentioned with the other guys, is I think the prototype that they showed us, I liked that better on the face. This digital paintwork, I get what they're going for, but it just doesn't land for me in the same way that the prototype did. So, but not a big deal. And this guy, he does have a helmet. I've chosen to display mine without the helmet. So there's Condor. Now he's another character that I had to buy two of. And mind you, I didn't have to buy two of anybody. I could have bought one Condor and I could have bought 9 Bone Collectors if I wanted to, but I was trying to space out the duplicates. So I went with 2 Condors, and here's the other one. And again, you can see the difference that just a couple of little changes in parts make. So this guy is the exact same from the neck down, but Condor actually comes with a masked head on his own. So I didn't need to pull this masked head from one of my trooper packages. He already had this available. And with this head, I've decided to give him the helmet with the night vision goggles there. And I've given him some different weapons. And one thing you'll see here, this is your first look at the muzzle flash. So these are some things that came in the accessory set, and they fit on all the different weapons. So that's very cool if you want to display your guys shooting their guns. You can do that, and it looks pretty cool. But otherwise, this figure is the exact same as what I just showed you with Condor. But much like with Bone Collector there, if you want to expand your Action Force figures right now and you don't want to wait for Wave 2 and 3 to come out, you can just buy a bunch of these guys, give them their masked head, and then you could have Condor here leading a whole troop of, Condor troopers or whatever you want to call these guys. So very cool. I really like the option to to change these guys up. You know, it adds a lot to the line. I think if you did that with GI Joes, if every GI Joe figure came with an optional masked head, I think Hasbro would be surprised at how many duplicates the fans would buy of these characters, because it'd be an easy way to build squads of figures, and you wouldn't have everybody fighting over the troop builder figures like the Cobra Troopers and the Vipers and stuff like that, because you could just buy Cobra Commander 10 times over and just change out the head and build your own troopers, and it'd be a lot easier. So yeah, who knows? Hopefully Hasbro learned some lessons here from Valaverse, because I think that's one of my favorite things about the line. So next up, we're going to take a look at the Steel Brigade. So the Steel Brigade is not a unique character in... so he originated in G.I. Joe. They had a character called the Steel Brigade, and he was this nameless character. The idea being that you could only get him through a mail-away offer, and you could fill out your own file card and choose what your military specialty was, and choose what your own code name was, and then Hasbro would send you back a unique file card to your character, and the weapons would be unique depending on what specialty you chose. And so that was just a really neat way for kids to feel like they were a member of the G.I. Joe team. And apparently, the Steel Brigade was a favorite figure of Bobby Valla, who runs Valaverse and created the whole Action Force line. So he found that Hasbro had let the copyright or the trademark lapse on the name Steel Brigade. So he was able to take that name and use it for his own line. And so that's how we get Steel Brigade here in Action Force. So the figures don't look the exact same as the G.I. Joe Steel Brigade, but there's a lot of similarities. You know, it's definitely a strong homage to that original figure, and I think he looks great. So again, he's got this this vest accessory with the little pouches there for the ammo. From the legs down, you see he's got the boots with the buckles. He's got the knee pads, so probably the same as Condor from the waist down. He's got the canteen on the leg. He's got the pistol there. Knife sheathed on the back. I really like the weathering on the paint job here, so the steel plates look like he's been through some stuff. I've got him displayed with, I think, the weapon that he came with. Now you'll notice here, I've got him with this gold face. Now, unless you back to the initial Kickstarter, unfortunately, you probably won't be able to get a hold of the steel face. That was basically what convinced me to buy 10 figures that I didn't really need. It wasn't so much the free backpacks and the free weapons pack. It was knowing that this head was going to be only available to Kickstarter backers who bought the 10 set. Now, mind you, after I did support it and pay for the 10, the Kickstarter did change it up, and they did allow anybody on the Kickstarter, even if they only bought one figure, to buy the head as an add-on for $10. So that did kind of make me rethink whether I really should have bought 10 figures. I probably could have changed my pledge amount at that point in time. But I was so confident that I would like these figures, and it looked like there was enough options to change figures up that I thought, you know what, I'm going to stick with my pledge of 10 figures. And it's cool that I got this head, and it's cool that more people were able to get it, because I'm sure not everybody really had the funds to buy 10 figures at the time. I barely did myself, so it's nice that that was an option to anybody that bought into the Kickstarter to get that head. So let me bring out another Steel Brigade. I got 3 of these guys. So this is the standard Steel Brigade. Now, I've got him with different weapons to kind of differentiate him from my squad commander there. But the main difference is you see the head here has got the silver plates instead of the gold. Otherwise, he's the same from the neck down. I've given him some different weapons, and as well as he's got some of those little blast effects on his guns, so you can see the different shapes of them. Some of them are probably intended for pistols or machine guns. But yeah, you can change them up. They work for any type of gun. So yeah, just that little difference in head sculpt, or in paint job, I mean. The sculpt is the same. But it does differentiate these guys. Now I've got my commander, and I can have a couple guys behind him. So I actually have a third Steel Brigade. And with this guy, I decided to shake him up a little bit, and I took off the head altogether, and I gave him this masked head. So I still have an extra Steel Brigade head floating around here, because this guy had a head, and so did this guy. So that's how I'm able to display this guy as a Steel Brigade as well. And then this guy, he can just carry his helmet around with him if he wants to. And there you go. So there's my little squad of 4 Steel Brigade, even though I only initially bought 3 of them. And they all look unique. Like, I could give these guys all their own individual names and backstories if I wanted to, and it doesn't feel like I just have, 4 duplicate characters. They feel like a unique little squad, like they're my own little Bad Batch from Star Wars or something. And so another cool thing about these guys that I want to show you before I move on. So I didn't really get into the packaging with these figures, but that's because I did a whole unboxing video previously. But here's just a reminder of what the box looks like. It's a big window in the front. It says the character on the front. You get some artwork of the character on the side. On the back, you get the file card for the character, as well as you can see all the other figures in the line. So that's the same for basically every figure. But the Steel Brigade gives you something a little extra. So if you open this up, pull out the plastic tray. Behind here, you get this Steel Brigade patch, which again is a throwback to the original G.I. Joe Steel Brigade, because you were given a patch like this. It had a different logo, obviously, but same idea, very similar. So this is the patch that you'll see the Steel Brigade troopers have on their vests. So yeah, if you want to go iron this onto your own vest or your jacket, you have that option, so that's pretty cool. So I got one of these with each of my 3 Steel Brigade figures. And you also get this Steel Brigade official unit dossier. So this is a file card, which is reminiscent to the one from G.I. Joe back in the 80s, where you can pick your own code name and put your birthplace, and you can choose your primary military specialty, your secondary skills, and provide your background. And the Valaverse website gives you an option there's this template is available where you can type in your options and have it printed out. So you can either just write it in pen here if you want to and have this, for yourself. But if you want it to look a little bit more official, you can print off from the template on the Valaverse website, which is really cool. And that way Valaverse can keep track of all the various Steel Brigade troopers that they've sold to all the different people, and you've got a record of all the Steel Brigade troopers with all the unique code names, which is pretty cool. So like when I was a kid, I had a Steel Brigade G.I. Joe figure, and I named him Blackout. But now there's a G.I. Joe character with the name Blackout, so I don't think I could bother to use that again. I was kind of thinking of going with Black Watch, maybe, for one of my guys' names, but I don't know if I'm going to bother going through the trouble of filling out the file cards or registering on the website or anything, but I might need to come up with names for these guys anyway. So there you go. That is the Steel Brigade. So the last figure I have to show you is the Swarm Trooper. So this is yet another faction of Action Force. So these guys here are the Swarm. This guy is meant to be a trooper. We're already getting a second type of Swarm Trooper in Wave 2, known as the Scarab. He looks pretty cool as well. But they both have this kind of like yellow bumblebee themed outfit. And I really like these guys, because these guys add a little bit of science fiction to Action Force. And I'm not a big military guy. If this line was strictly military, I would probably lose interest relatively quickly. But these elements here are what are going to hold my interest. So yeah, I really like this guy. I like the look of him a lot. So this translucent yellow head that they've given him, I think it's a really cool idea. Although I don't really love how you can kind of see like the peg of the head right up inside of there. I don't know if it's coming through on camera as much, but it doesn't look like you're looking through lenses at a possible, like for one, if they were yellow lenses that you couldn't see through, like sunglasses, that would be kind of a cool effect. Or if there was maybe even a painted, like a sculpted face under there that you were kind of just seeing the shadows of. But what you see when you look through there, you see the actual peg, the yellow peg that carries up from the neck. So knowing that it almost looks like there isn't a head in there, maybe gives you the idea that these guys are almost robots, which I suppose they could be. Use your imagination. But this guy has got a very unique sculpt. He's quite a bit different from the other guys. So you can see here, he's got these metallic like leg armor. So this guy's got the most unique sculpting out of anybody in the line, I would say. Still, he's got a lot of the same carryover elements. Like he's still got the, the knife that's sheathed back here. He's got the little pistol that's holstered on his leg. So he's got a different type of pistol. All of his guns seem a little bit more sci-fi. I don't know if these are still based in the real world, but I don't really care one way or the other. You can see at the end there, he's got a little hole at the end of the gun, so you can put the blast effect in there if you like. But yeah, really cool. I like this guy a lot. And this guy actually made it to the number 2 spot of my top action figures of 2021. However, as cool as he is, I don't know if he would have made it there all on his own. So like the standard troopers, there is an accessory set you can buy to kind of soup up your swarm troopers. And I bought one of them. This is the swarm gear set. So you can see this comes with a backpack, a shield, a couple of extra guns, and it also comes with a display base, which doesn't show on there. So even though I bought 2 swarm troopers, I only bought one of the gear packs, which I think was a bit of a mistake because it's really the gear pack that elevates this figure to, the top of the charts here. So here's my other swarm trooper. So exact same figure, but this guy's got the translucent yellow Action Force base, the translucent yellow Riot shield. He's also got a couple more guns with the yellow and black effect. And then, coolest of all, is this backpack with the translucent wings. And so it really makes this guy look like a threat. He stands out from the other Action Force figures on my shelf, more so than this guy already did in the bright yellow. And yeah, if you're going to buy a Swarm Trooper, I think you pretty much have to buy the accessory set. My original thought process was, because I think this accessory set was an additional $15, and this is already a deluxe priced figure. So this isn't a $20 figure. So this guy was like $30 on his own, another $15 to gear him up. I thought that was just potentially too expensive. So I kind of thought, well, if I get a few of these guys, I'll have one guy with the accessory set, and that'll be like the squad leader. However, since initially ordering these guys, they put up a special edition version that is exclusive to like the Transformers website BotCon, and they took the same guy with the gear pack and they painted him in green colors. That way he looks like the Transformers character Waspinator, and that character's name is Wasp Raider. So I've already got that figure on pre-order. I think they're just starting to ship out now. So I'm going to have my green version of this guy very soon. And so I kind of think, well, Wasp Raider, since he's unique, he'll probably be the squad leader of my Swarm Troopers. And I really think all of my Swarm Troopers that follow him should probably have this gear as well. So yeah, probably one of the first purchases I make when I go back to the Valaverse website will be to gear this guy up with some wings and a shield. But anyway, awesome figure, awesome toy line. It did not disappoint. It was a 2-year wait for these figures. But yeah, I think they're really solid, and I highly recommend them. So that is my review of Action Force from Valaverse Wave 1. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to hit the like button and the subscribe button. And please, if you have any questions or comments, leave those below as well. So thank you for watching. I hope you guys had a happy new year. I've been posting a lot of videos this past week because I've been off work. I'm probably going to go back to a more normal schedule of maybe a video a week or something going forward. But thanks to you who have watched all these videos that I've been bombarding you with for the last week or so. But yeah, I'll see you soon with another video. Until then, ciao.